Welcome back. All right, so I was putting up a Christmas tree. You can see a bit there, and then I was informed that I needed to do a video when the NHL app was like, "Hey, by the way, Luke Richardson got fired, so enjoy your Christmas tree." So Luke Richardson's out as the head coach of the Chicago Blackhawks. So there's a bit of a bah humbug from the Chicago organization on this one. Chicago, we knew were going to not be a playoff team this year, and the statement from general manager Kyle Davidson is along the lines of this team was performing worse than they had hoped. This was definitely a situation where they felt like they had to step in, and so Luke Richardson's out and taking over. Anders Sorensen's been named the interim head coach. Now he was in his fourth year with the Rockford IceHogs as the head coach, and he'd been an associate and assistant coach before then. So it definitely feels like this is a move that maybe could lead to a permanent job for Sorensen. And we've discussed for many years, I've done videos on it on this channel too, on just the fact that European born trained coaches, former players who are now, you just don't see in the National Hockey League guys who are European born named as head coaches. So I hope Sorensen does a good job and leaves things difficult for Chicago if they are looking for a replacement for him, because we have seen coaches do a good job and end up taking that interim tag and just pitching it. It becomes they are the full time head coach. Now, the record for Chicago is bad 8-16-2, a 346 points percentage. That's last in the NHL, and the numbers are ugly all around, at least 5-on-5, it seems. They're 31st in goals scored per game. They're 21st in goals against per game. Interestingly enough, they're 12th on the power play and 9th on the penalty kill. So special teams are good. That tells you 5-on-5 has been a nightmare. And the shots per game, they're taking 26 shots per game and allowing 30 and a half shots against per game. So they're not controlling the puck. They're not getting the opportunities. And so this is why the change takes place. Now, looking at the scoring, and I wanted to compare this year to last year. So I just took the top six players who are still with the team and look at their scoring. Bedard stands out as the one who's had his struggles, right? 68 games, 22 goals, 39 assists, 61 points in his first year. This year, 26 games, 5 goals, 14 assists, 19 points. And at one point last night, he just snapped his stick. And he intentionally just stomped it and broke it so that that stick was vanquished. And that kind of frustration we've been seeing from Bedard game after game after game. And it even entered my mind during last night's game, and I think it was around the time where he snapped that stick. I thought, Bedard's not having fun. And if you're Chicago, you want to make sure that Bedard is comfortable and wants to be there long term, because otherwise, this rebuild's not headed for good places. So you have to make sure Bedard's happy and that he's playing well, and neither of those seem to be the case right now. Kurashev, last year, 75 games, 18 goals, 36 assists, 54 points, playing with Bedard. This year, more limited ice time for him, 23 games, 3 goals, 2 assists, 5 points. Either more limited ice time or he's just been invisible this season, because there have definitely been games of Chicago's where he's been very, very quiet. You only hear his name a couple of times. Foligno, 74 games last year, 17 goals, 20 assists, 37 points. This year's numbers aren't that far off. 26 games, 7 goals, 4 assists, 11 points. He's a veteran. He can fight through anything. Dickinson, last year had a career year. 82 games, 22 goals, 13 assists, 35 points. This year, 26 games, 5 goals, 3 assists for 8 points. Seth Jones, who's currently injured, last year, 67 games, 8 goals, 23 assists, 31 points. His numbers this year actually were better at the time of the injury. 17 games, 2 goals, 8 assists, 10 points. And then Donato. Donato might be the one player in Chicago who was having a really strong season. Last year, 78 games, 12 goals, 18 assists, 30 points. This year, 24 games, 10 goals, 5 assists, 15 points. Now, when we've talked about coach firings earlier in the season, we've also talked about the job the general manager's done. And in this case, they added a lot of veteran talent. And when you add that many players, it can be tough for guys to get chemistry with one another. And what it did was it allowed them to send the guys down to the AHL that they felt needed more time. They didn't want to be forcing guys into the lineup before they were ready. So Teravainen, 26 games, 6 goals, 6 assists, 12 points. They want more from Teravainen, and I don't think I'm speaking out of turn to say it. Craig Smith, 24 games, 6 goals, 4 assists, 10 points. That's probably right in line with where Craig Smith should be. But Bertuzzi stands out, and there was an article yesterday, I believe Mark Lazarus with an article. I know Scott Powers has talked about it too. That Bertuzzi just has not been producing the way that they had hoped when they picked him up. 26 games, 5 goals, 5 assists, 10 points. And I do sometimes feel like Bertuzzi gets overrated. Maybe they expected too much from him. Bertuzzi's a 20 goal scorer. And at this pace, he's on pace for about 15. So definitely behind where he should be. But he was being expected to do more. And that's another reason why you would look to make a change behind the bench to hope to get him going, right? Maroon, 23 games, 1 goal, 7 assists for Maroon. Not an offensive player. So point total's not a big deal with Maroon. Brody, 23 games and 5 assists for TJ Brody. Mikheyev continues to struggle when it comes to the goal scoring side of things. 24 games, 2 goals, 3 assists, 5 points. And Alec Martinez has just played the 14 games due to injury. 3 assists for Martinez. He's a shot blocking machine, but that also means that machine's going to have to go in the shop every now and then because injuries. The style of game Martinez plays does lead to injuries. You'll notice I don't have goaltending on the board because it really has played no role in Luke Richardson losing his job. It is not the reason that Chicago's in this dire situation right now. Their goaltending between Mrazek and Soderblom has been fantastic. And once Brossoit comes back, it allows them with 3 goaltenders to maybe you shop Soderblom. Maybe you shop Brossoit because Soderblom's been playing well. So we'll see what they do there. Now, the kids on the farm, Frank Nazar, 18 games, 11 goals, 13 assists, 24 points. That tells me that getting these veterans has been a success on that level. But the other part of this is you're bringing up the coach from Rockford. Does this make it more likely that we see maybe Nazar coming up, right? Colton Dach, 19 games, 8 goals, 9 assists, 17 points. Landon Slaggert, 19 games, 3 goals, 9 assists, 12 points. I honestly thought Slaggert was pretty good for them last year. I'm kind of surprised they put him back in the AHL, but that is why they picked up these veteran players. At least that seems to be the case. Kevin Krasinski needed more time. 19 games, 2 goals, 9 assists, 11 points for him in Rockford. Artyom Levshunov. So Levshunov, who was a bit of a surprise being drafted as early as he was. 16 games, 2 goals, 6 assists, 8 points. Ethan Del Mastro, 19 games, just the 4 assists. And Louis Crevier, 11 games, 1 assist. And, of course, he's been called up. I think he's been called up twice by Chicago this year. Crevier's a big guy. And if you can ever get it where Crevier and Vlasic are both NHL defensemen playing together, that's a pretty big pairing right there. So, one thing to keep in mind, because Chicago clearly is not in a playoff hunt, at some point in time they're going to decide to make some moves in regards to their UFAs. Taylor Hall's a UFA. I don't know how much value he has right now. I didn't include him here, although his production has definitely been disappointing overall. He did have the hat trick last week, but outside of that, not producing Hall-like numbers, just the 10 points so far this year. Ryan Donato might attract some interest as a free agent next summer, or at least as a pending UFA at the deadline. I shouldn't say free agent next summer, but as a pending UFA, he'd attract some interest. Pat Maroon, there's always going to be a team that wants a Pat Maroon on their fourth line. Craig Smith, Alec Martinez, shot blocking machine, like I said. Teams are going to be calling around the trade deadline. And currently down in Rockford is Andreas Athanasiou. He did clear waivers before going down, but he's a pending UFA this coming summer. And at the deadline, some team may very well pick him up. Now, the cap space for Chicago currently sits at $7,300,258. This is a team that spent some money this past summer, picked up veteran players. Almost none of those veteran players are producing at the level that was expected when they picked him up. So Luke Richardson bites the bullet on that one. I do wonder if this team continues to struggle at this pace, if somebody's going to say, well, maybe the general manager deserves some blame. But I think we're early enough in this rebuild process where I think Kyle Davidson can kind of dodge that at this stage. I don't think that they've necessarily done as solid of a job in Chicago of getting Bedard players to play with as, say, San Jose has done with Celebrini in his first year. And Anaheim, I think, has done a pretty good job, too, in terms of their overall forward group, although you want more goals out of Anaheim as well. And we'll see if there's more goals for Chicago under a new coach. So I do. Fingers crossed here for Sorensen. It'd be great to see a European coach succeed at the NHL level and maybe start getting teams to think about hiring a European coach rather than just recycling all the same North American names that get recycled over and over and over again at the NHL level. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below regarding the Chicago Blackhawks. I do agree that this is a team that has had not just struggles, but they don't have that comeback in them. They don't have there's that something you're looking for in terms of a compete level that was there early in the season that has just kind of slowly been whittled away. And I don't think injuries have helped them because they were already short on top end talent as it was. And it's overall been a mess for Chicago. So does changing the coach change that? Probably not substantially, but if you can get Bedard going and if you can get some of the players who've been struggling going, that at least helps things in the locker room a little bit. It should change the mood of the team a bit. But let me know your thoughts. Hit like and subscribe in the event you've not done so already. Thank you guys so much for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.